Welcome back to the Metamorphosis Project podcast. Joining me today is Moni Castaneda. We are going to explore the transformative power of your living space with Feng Shui. Moni is a renowned consultant, speaker, and author, sharing her unique 9-step system to Feng Shui, a method that blends ancient East Asian wisdom with the modern design principles. In this episode, Moni will explain how you can turn your home into a sanctuary of beauty and positive energy. Welcome, Moni, to the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, wonderful. So I have been interested in Feng Shui for a while. I have rearranged rooms and placed Buddhas in certain corners or crystals in certain corners. But tell us, how did you get into Feng Shui? Like, how did it come into your awareness the first
Yeah.
time that it came up?
Well, I was born and raised in Ecuador, which is a small country in South America, right on the equator. It's about the size of the state of Colorado, so it's very small. And I actually got a degree in architecture there. But I graduated 1 month, and the next month I moved to the United States to meet my husband. And when I got here, I found out that I was not going to be able to practice my profession, which had taken me over 6 years, because there's no agreements between the schools in Ecuador and the schools in the United States. And so they told me I had to go back to school for 4 or 5 years, and I had already been in school for so long that I wasn't interested. And I was telling a friend about this, and she told me, "Why don't you look into Feng Shui? You might be interested, right?" And I looked it up, and I fell in love. But I also was disconcerted because of the so many different ways to do Feng Shui, so many different approaches. So I would pick up one book, and the advice was completely different from another book, and sometimes even contradictory. And so that led me to doing a lot of research, and looking at all the schools and testing things to make sure they worked.
Mm-hmm. And what the first thing that you did that worked? Because you said you did a lot of things by trial and error, trying
Yes.
different things that other people had suggested.
Yeah. One thing that, yeah, go on.
Yeah, say what was the turning point that you were like, oh, there's really something behind this?
Yes, between just being interested in something and just playing with it, right? In the home that my husband and I had built, the stove was just across the sink, and that in Feng Shui is said to cause arguments. And we were having terrible arguments, and there were arguments that shouldn't be they were not about things that were really, really that deal breakers, right? And so we were arguing because I didn't like some of the things he was eating, and he was not satisfied with how much I was working out. And my kitchen was in a part of the home that is a sector for health, family, and community, right? And I noticed that, and I thought, well, this is really weird. And the advice that was recommended was to hang a faceted crystal ball from the ceiling in between the two items. And so I did that. I was like, what have you got to lose? Because we were at each other's throats about things that never mattered before, right? And all of a sudden, as soon as we had moved to this house, we started having these arguments. So I hung the crystal, and a week later, I told my husband, "Oh wow, we haven't argued in about a week." And he said, "You're right. You're right. All of a sudden, we're getting along so well." And so we said, "Well, let's go thank the crystal." We're just being silly and goofy.
Right.
We put our hands up toward the crystal, and then we were like, "Wow," because we both felt like a tingling in the palm of our hands, and we were shocked. And so the idea is that there's this life force that circulates through the biosphere of Earth, because the biosphere is full of life.
Yep.
And living beings emit this energy called the life force. And so it's circulating through homes, it's going everywhere. And when you use a crystal, in the same way that a crystal captures light, a faceted crystal, a prism, in the same way that it captures light and redistributes it through all the facets, it does the same thing with the life force. So it catches the life force that is conflicted in this case,
Yeah.
right? And then releases it in all directions. And so that was one thing that made me think, oh, wow, right? And then I had a friend who was a practitioner of acupuncture. And she had studied with a very, very old school, the kind of school that is a secret. They go from teacher to student, and they're not public, so they don't have books. All the knowledge goes just from person to person. They don't have websites. I can't even say their name. Her name, right? Who was my mentor. And so she taught me that Feng Shui was a branch of ancient East Asian medicine, right? And when I was looking at all the different books, when I was meeting people that were Feng Shui consultants or people that told me they had completely Feng Shui their home, I did not see beauty. Like I would go to their homes and I'd be like, oh, that is strange. I wasn't wowed, and I didn't go like, oh, that's beautiful, And so that was disconcerting to me, because when you look at the old buildings in China and other places in Asia, they are breathtakingly gorgeous. And so I knew something was not properly being translated to our culture, because what I was seeing was just strange. And so I wanted to make sure that when I was doing Feng Shui, you would get the results, like the amazing result of all of a sudden we stopped arguing because of the crystal on the facet, right? And faceted bulb. And so, but I also wanted it to look good. I didn't want people coming to my home and say, oh, that is really strange that you have a crystal ball hanging from there.
Right.
So, yeah, because nobody wants to be called strange, right? And so I kept looking and I kept looking for somebody that could teach me, okay, how do I practice Feng Shui as a branch of ancestral Chinese medicine? Because there's 5 branches to ancestral Chinese medicine. They're acupuncture, herbalism, Asian massage, like shiatsu, right? And qigong, tai chi, and Feng Shui, right? But I couldn't find anybody that was doing Feng Shui as a branch of ancestral Chinese medicine. And so I had to do all the studying on my own. And my mentor, she helped me out. So she helped me by teaching me what you do in acupuncture. So what are the principles of healing that you follow in acupuncture? And then I started saying, okay, how do I apply this principle that is used on the human body? How do I apply it to the home? So it took about 10 years, 10 years of doing research, refining, testing it out, to have a workable system that when you apply it, when you go from step 1 to step 9, I guarantee you're going to end up with a dream home.
Very nice. That's very exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I mean, people love to make their homes comfortable and safe. And now with the tools of Feng Shui, you can make your home work for you instead of just being a space.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So what are these 9 steps?
Yeah. So the 9 steps. But let me backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
And so there's 3 ways to practice Feng Shui.
Okay.
The one way that is the most commonly practiced in the UK, because Feng Shui was brought to the West by CEOs. So in the 70s, British CEOs brought compass school Feng Shui to the United Kingdom. And this is a type of Feng Shui that is based mostly in astrology and numerology. And that's where they use the compass. So they start by making a calculation of where the door is facing, and they do a calculation based on your birth. Right? Your date of birth, time, and all that. And then they tell you there's 4 directions that are good for you and 4 directions that are bad for you. And they use that to choose colors and stuff. And so what has happened is that in the West, people get obsessed with the 4 negative directions. And so when you divide the home of a person, like with a pie that has 8 pieces, and you tell people these 4 directions are bad for you, people become obsessed and they stop going into the rooms. For example, I had a client who had been served previously by a compass school practitioner who had told her bedroom was the direction of death. So she stopped sleeping in her bedroom, and she let her bedroom become a junk room, and she was sleeping on the floor in the living room. So that's not a way to live. And so it just doesn't translate well to our culture.
Yeah.
And other things they do is, for example, they tell you to choose colors based on the directions or based on your year of birth, regardless of how you react to those colors, whether you like them or not, or even if they make sense in your home, right? So that's one way to practice Feng Shui. The second way to practice Feng Shui is what is called Black Hat School of Feng Shui or Black Sect School of Feng Shui. So the full name is Buddhist Tantric Black Sect or School of Feng Shui. And so this is the type of Feng Shui that was brought to the United States by CEOs in the West Coast that had gone to Taiwan or Singapore. And so this is a type of Feng Shui that became intertwined with Buddhist beliefs. So Feng Shui does not come from Buddhism, because Buddhism originated in India and then was exported to China. So when the Buddhist monks came to China, they became fascinated with Feng Shui and they started using Feng Shui for their monasteries. That's why we have this link in our minds, of Buddhism and Feng Shui.
Right.
So they use a lot of tantric practices, and they use a lot of metaphysical symbolic cures, and they're big on intent. So whenever they do a cure, they say, oh, you have to set the intent, right? And I think it's a beautiful way to practice Feng Shui, but it's not very practical. And none of these two ways of practicing Feng Shui actually produce dream homes. And to me, it's very important that Feng Shui should produce a dream home, right? And so some of the advice that Black Hat School of Feng Shui gives regarding colors, it makes sense when you listen to it, but when you try to apply it, it doesn't look good. And some of the advice they give regarding mirrors is like no-nos in interior design and architecture, right? Like the placement of mirrors.
Right.
For example, some advice they give is that if you have a staircase, at the bottom wall that the staircase is facing, you put a mirror, so that energy that's going down, you make it go up. But a staircase is a problem in Feng Shui, so you shouldn't be duplicating problems, right?
Right.
Plus, I knew a woman who had helped battered women in a shelter. And they had this situation where somebody had put a mirror at the end of the staircase, and the women were having almost heart attacks, because sometimes, like if in the early morning or at night, when they were going down, they thought somebody was coming at them. They would get really, really nervous, and they actually had to put a curtain up and cover up the mirror. And it was an old building, with a really old mirror. It was hard to move. And so in practice, some of this advice doesn't work. And for me, there's also too much trust on hoping you get it right. And I wanted to do something that you could trust. And that is what the 9 steps to Feng Shui is, because it is based on the principles of ancestral Chinese medicine.
Okay.
So the 9 steps, right?
Yeah.
The things that you want in your life. First I'm going to tell you the things that make a healthy person and a happy life. So the first thing is wholeness. As an individual, you want to have all your body parts, right? If you have had a surgery, for example, if somebody gets their gallbladder removed, they have to make changes, right? They have to make changes in their life because now there's an organ that was fulfilling the function that's not there anymore.
Yep.
And so you want to be whole. In the home, you want to make sure you have a full floor plan. So it has a square or rectangle. If it's not complete, like it's a C shape, an L shape, or irregular shape, you do things inside and outside the home to visually complete it. The second thing you want is balance. So a lot of people are just constantly living a life of drama. It's like it's a roller coaster, right? And people get addicted to this roller coaster type of living. And so as an individual, you want to live a balanced life, right? You want to make sure that you balance the time that you devote to work and to your home, to sleep, to recuperate. In the home, you work with excesses and deficiencies. For example, a classic example is the long and narrow hallway. The length of the hallway is an excess. The narrowness of the hallway is a deficiency. So you work to make it feel like the hallway is wider and not as long. The same thing happens with super high ceilings, which we all love. Who doesn't love a double high ceiling? But people don't use it. Like if they have a great room with a double high ceiling, they don't use it.
Yeah.
And so we learn how to make it visually appear that the ceiling is lower without actually lowering it, so you can feel that coziness, right? The third thing that you want is you want vitality. So many people today, to get going, they have to have coffee. And to unwind at night, they have to have some wine, right? And so the healthy person wakes up excited to do the things they love to do, and with energy to do the things they need to do. And at night, they're tired, naturally tired, and they go to sleep easily. And so in the home, it has to do with the circulation of the life force. Every time you open your door, you come into the home, you bring in with you life force. And if that life force is not visiting every room in the home and moving through the home in a meandering, peaceful way, there's going to be fatigue. And so one of the things that happens, for example, if you open the front door and the first thing you see is a staircase, people report feeling fatigued. The fourth requirement for health and happiness is order, rhythm, right? Rhythm is based on cycles. So because the earth goes around the sun, we have the seasons. Because the earth rotates on its own axis, we have the times of the day, right? And we also have the cycles of the moon. And so all these natural cycles help us have order in our lives through a connection with nature. And so for the person, that could be, for example, constipation. They're irregular. It could be for a woman having a very irregular menstrual period or a very painful menstrual period, right? In the home is your connection with the outside, mainly what you're doing with your windows and whether you have window treatments like curtains or blinds. So how do you control how much people can see from the outside, how much sunshine comes in, how much light comes in? So it's about control. Rhythm gives you control, right? The fifth thing that you need to do to be healthy and happy is you need to have harmony. Not be in constant arguments with other people or within yourself. Because when you are arguing with people, you get into fight or flight, and you get all those chemicals into your body that shut down the healing and thinking part of your brain. In the home, what you want to do is you want to harmonize color, shapes, and materials. When your colors are clashing, or when the way you are mixing up materials doesn't make sense, it gives you a little bit of a cringe. And if you're constantly cringing when you're at home, you're going to be more irritable and you're going to argue more with others. The sixth thing that you need to do is you need to have a high vibration, right? And so those of us that are into woo-woo things, right? We have heard forever about the aura, the human energy field. Finally, science is acknowledging that because we are electromagnetic beings, our bodies are electromagnetic, there is a field around us that can be measured. And so for a person, you want to have strength in your energy field. And that comes from good sleep, good food, good drinking, right? Drinking things that are good for you, not drinking things that are negative for you. Right? Yeah. And so in the home, it is the vibration of your home is set by the messages your home is giving you. The Chinese have a saying that goes like this: all the things in your home are talking to you. Make sure they have nice things to say. And so this applies mainly to your mirrors, your family photos, your art. I can go into a home, and by the way moms have set up the family photos, I can know who the favorite child is. And
I'll have to send you a picture of my family wall.
Yeah.
And because I think I have my kids pretty well balanced.
If you don't intentionally set up a family setup where everybody's treated equally, if you don't do that intentionally, it's gonna show.
Okay, see, I think I'm pretty intentional because I want all of my children to know that they're all valued in their own way and equally, right? Because
and you love them differently, right?
Absolutely.
My grandmother said one thing that when she first told me, she had 7 kids, and she said, you love your kids the same, but you don't like them the same. And I thought at the moment it was such a cruel thing to say, right?
But I have no idea.
I mean, there's personalities, right? And so, so I was speechless. So my grandmother then elaborated, and she said, for example, with your mom, she's a good conversationalist. So when I go visit her, we spend a very pleasant afternoon. We'll have tea, maybe we'll have a pastry, and we'll just talk, we'll catch up. When I go visit your aunt, who's an introvert, I ask her questions and she answers with one word. And she gets absorbed in her thoughts and she forgets I'm there. And so sometimes I'm just looking at the watch, wondering, when is a good time for me to leave? And so she didn't love one daughter more than the other, but she got along with one daughter better than
Right.
the other, right? And
Right.
so, and parents are humans,
Yep.
and they have personalities, and their children have personalities, right? But you have to make sure that your home tells the story. They're equal and they're equally loved.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then mirrors, many people today have so many beautiful mirrors that distort the image. In every single movie that you have seen about mental illness, you're going to see there's a scene where the person looks at themselves in a broken mirror, a mosaic mirror,
Yep.
or just on the bevels on the side of the mirror, like where you can see their split image. And so you need to have mirrors that are flat and have no bevels and are framed so they don't look dangerous, right? And that gives you good feedback about yourself. Then the seventh thing that you have to do to be healthy is that you have to find a way to make sense of the past.
Mm.
Everybody experiences trauma.
Yeah.
A
Yep.
person, it doesn't matter how good your parents were. So there's going to be degrees. A person may have been grown up in a really dysfunctional home, and another person might have grown up in a really functional home. But there's always trauma. And actually, and I don't know if you ever heard about the 5 elements in Feng Shui and how they establish personalities. So there's
Yep.
5 elements personality types, right? The 5 elements personality types are the result of trauma.
Yeah.
The trauma that happens
Yep.
when you are a toddler trying to assert your will and your parents and caretakers are trying to keep you alive, right? And so you want to do these things, and they tell like, if you as an adult, somebody tells you it's time to go from a party, and you say, I'm not ready to go, and they grab you and they throw you over the shoulder and they carry you to the car and they tie you and take you away. That would be so traumatic, but that's what we do to toddlers, right?
Yeah. 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 I always tell
Yeah.
my clients, you may have grown up in a home where you felt loved and you felt cared for, but the trauma for a 3-year-old is totally different than the trauma for a 15-year-old.
Exactly.
And if you're told that, your parent doesn't know what you drew at 3 years old and you're just crushed because you can clearly see that it's a unicorn, but they can't see that it's a unicorn, and it
Yeah,
just crushes you, it doesn't mean that your parents meant to traumatize you. It's just you
exactly.
took that in a different way, and it's just different for everybody.
It's just things that happen in life, or the loss
Yeah.
of a toy,
Yeah.
right? It can be really traumatic for a child. And so you can only be healthy when you learn to make sense of the past,
Yeah.
when you learn to understand what happened, when you learn to accept it. And as you heal, you forgive, right? When you forgive, you're able to move on easier. So today, there's actually trends in psychology that they recommend that you not forgive, that you just let the forgiveness happen naturally, because too many people were being pushed to forgive before they were ready and before they had processed their emotions and before they were able to make sense of what
Right.
happened, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. You
Yeah.
have
And
to.
so,
Yeah.
yeah,
And forgiveness does not absolve anybody of anything.
yeah,
It just allows you to let go of the hurt and not hold on to it.
of course. Yeah. And from the perspective of ancestral Chinese medicine, forgiveness happens naturally when you are able to make sense of the past. And you
Okay.
make sense of the past through nostalgia,
Okay.
right? So you replace the grief with nostalgia,
Okay.
which I think is really interesting, right? Because like even with your kids, when when your child is no longer a toddler and now they're a preschooler, you miss the toddler,
Yeah.
right? And you miss
Yeah.
the baby, and through every stage they go, there's a sense of loss and grief.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can relate to it with nostalgia instead of sadness, that's easier, right?
Yeah.
It's easier on you. And so
Absolutely.
the person does this through nostalgia, but in the home, it's clutter.
Yeah.
When you can't make sense of the past, you have clutter.
Yep.
You cannot decide what to do with the things that you no longer need or use. They belong in the past, but you can't make decisions. So decluttering, the way I do it in my system, you have to add beauty, because people only organize spaces if they're beautiful. If they're not beautiful, then keep them a mess. You have to put things away in a way that you can remember where you put them.
Yeah. My best friend actually has a file called safe place, because that's where
Uh-huh.
she puts all the documents that she wants to keep in a safe place. So she's actually labeled it safe place.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? And so you have to have beauty.
Yeah.
You have to put things away in a way that works with your memory type, so that you'll remember where you put them, right?
Yep.
And then you have to. Um, I'm glad you're gonna edit this because now I
Yeah.
lost my train of thought.
Yep, I will.
You have to make sure that when you're putting things away in your beautiful spaces, that those things still belong in your home, because you need to live with the things that you use and the things that you love. So you can keep in your home things that you don't need at all, but you love them. And you don't have to love everything, like the idea that everything has to spark joy, not necessarily, because maybe for you a hammer is never going to spark joy.
Right.
But if you need the hammer, you need to keep it. So it's living with things that you need or love, right?
Right.
Ideally, things you need and love. And
Right.
so when you are able to organize your home and we live with simplicity, you make room for your passions. So the idea is to get rid of everything that's holding you back and to open up space for the things that you really want to do, right?
Yep.
Then the eighth thing that you need to do is you need to have goals. If you are rudderless, if you don't have something to look into the future, right? If you are not setting goals for each of the 9 life areas in your home and in your life, then you are not going to make progress. You need to set a direction for where you are going. Like, what do I want to achieve in my career? What do I want to do in terms of money? How do I want my relationship to be? Do I have health challenges I need to overcome? What's going to be my legacy? What am I going to leave my children in terms of material possessions, in terms of knowledge, and just in terms of memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your reputation like? Are you having enough fun? What are the places you want to travel? So when you establish goals, all your efforts have somewhere to go. If you
Right.
do not establish positive, healthy goals for yourself, you may just be working a lot and doing a lot of things and not moving forward. In the home, we use the Bagua map, where we separate the floor plan into 9 segments, like a tic-tac-toe, and each of
Okay.
those segments is assigned a life area. So at the back, when you're looking at the home from across the street, at the back from left to right, you have wealth, reputation, relationships. In the middle, you have health, gratitude, fun. In the front, you have wisdom, career, and travel, right?
Okay.
And so when you are aware of this segmentation of your home, which by the way is biological, and this is something that I only know because my mentor from the secret school told me this, because there's no other source in Feng Shui, there's nobody else who can explain why in so many schools of Feng Shui, they line up the bottom of the Bagua map with the wall that holds your main door. But my mentor explained it to me. And it actually has a biological connection. So you're basically, like if you put the Bagua map on your body, the career area would be lined up with your bladder. And the
Okay.
fame and reputation area, which is at the back center of the home, would be aligned with your heart. And so roughly it corresponds to the location of your organs. And as you know, because you're familiar with the 5 elements, each of these life areas is associated with an element, and there's emotions and that come with that, right? So there's emotions, there's mindsets, and there's certain characteristics and attitudes that come with each life area. For example, the health area is associated with the wood element, which is about growth and strength. And the relationship area is associated with the earth element, which is agricultural dirt, which is associated with receiving a seed and yielding.
Okay.
And so each of the life areas has very powerful connections with nature. And so in the home, you set reminders in these key spots in your home of where you want to go. So for example, you want to make more money, you put a waterfall in your foyer. If you want to be known by more people, you could put an image of a sun in the back middle of your room. If you want to have a happier relationship, you could put a couple of hearts there, right? And so, but of course, the feng shui cures, enhancements, or remedies, they have to be customized for the needs of each person or in the family. Right. Yeah, and so the ninth thing that you need to do to be healthy and happy is that you need to be empowered, not me, right? You need to be able to occupy your space. You need to be able to say, this is who I am, here's what I'm gonna do, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and I am the ruler of my life. So the way you do that in the home is through furniture placement. So there's something we call the power position, which is making sure that when you're sleeping, you can see the door but not be directly in front of the door, so that when you're working in your office, you have the command of the room. So that when you are sitting in your sofa, maybe watching a movie or playing a video game or just reading a book, that you feel safe. So the arrangement of furniture in the home is what makes you feel empowered. And here's the thing. If your home is in good shape, your life is in good shape. And the shape is something physical, right? The shape your home is in is dependent on what you are doing there. Where are you putting the furniture? How are you organizing it? And all those things.
Right. That's so cool. That's and I'm mentally going through my home going, okay, yes, my bed is not in front of the door, but I can see the door. Like where my couch is,
Yes.
I can see both doors from where our love seat is that we sit in all the time. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think I've done a pretty good job of furniture placement going through my home.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
makes people safe. And this is a podcast that I think people will need to come back to and maybe listen a second time or a third time so they can do their checklist. How am I doing here in my home?
Yep. Yeah, and I'll also try to put the checklist in the show notes so that people, or unless you have a link to a checklist, I can put that in the show notes as well.
Well, it's my website, which is ninestepstofengshui.com, and you can get there through spacearrangement.com too. There's a in the menu, there's a link called free and low cost resources. And that's how you can get my freebies. And so my main freebie is how to turn your current home into a dream home by developing your own sense of style. Because remember, we want your home to be beautiful. And we want you to be proud of your home. And then there's links to my books, my free Facebook group, and other things. If you sign up to take this half-hour class, which is really eye-opening, there's a download that you can have with that to get a sense of how you're doing in your home. And if you stay on my mailing list for 10 days, in 10 days, you will get a link to 15 more freebies.
Awesome.
Yeah, including a life areas test and a Bagua map.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of resources. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys are if you guys are loving this content as much as I am, make sure you go to her website, sign up for her mailing list, and stay on it, because my guess is that even after the 10 days, you're going to get a lot of valuable information on how to create a more comfortable, more harmonious home to live in, which I think is so important, because a lot of people often don't feel like that their home is a safe place, in which it should be.
And sometimes, when people say, my life is not in a good place right now, maybe it's literal.
Yeah.
Most of you're living, you do at home. And if your home is not a good place, you can't be in a good place. It's impossible.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. What are a couple of nuggets, other little nuggets that you can leave for the listeners?
Yeah, so two things, right? The first one is curb appeal. If your home is not nice to look at when you first get there, you are going to attract ill will from yourself and your neighbors. But if you have great curb appeal, if you look at the front of your home as a gift to the neighborhood, every time somebody walks by your home, they're going to say, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And they're going to think nice thoughts about you and your family. And the opposite is true, if you're
it really is.
It really is. And so that goodwill accumulates. And the most important goodwill is from you, right? And here's the tip. The numbers. The numbers on your mailbox or on your house need to be really easy to find and really easy to identify. Because when people come to your home for the first time and to find your home, they have to do an elimination by looking at all the numbers around you and think, oh, this must be it, because it's between this number and that number. That means you're missing out on opportunities. You're not wanting to be found. So that the curb appeal and the numbers, right? And the second tip that is super, super important, whichever door you use most commonly to come into your home, make sure the first thing you see is something beautiful and uplifting. So if you're coming in from the garage, right, and the first thing you see is the laundry room, you're gonna feel like your life is an endless series of just home chores you have to do. You're gonna feel miserable as soon as you come home, unless you love to do laundry, but most people don't. The first thing you see is the dog food or the cat food. You're gonna think that your pets are a nuisance. There's so much work. Even though you love them so much, you're gonna think there's so much work. The first thing you see is a toilet. You're gonna think your life is going down the toilet. If the first thing you see is a staircase going down, you're gonna feel like your life is going downhill. And so chi follows attention. The life force follows attention. When you open your door, if you don't see something beautiful, you need to place something beautiful within your peripheral vision so that your eyes are drawn to that beautiful thing instead of the thing that you saw first. If the first thing you see is the refrigerator, you're going to be constantly snacking.
Right. Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna have to take a look at, because we come in through the side door, and as soon as you come in through the side door, you've got the basement steps. Now I can close the door to those basement steps.
Yes.
But it's a very small area that we walk in because we don't generally come in through the front door just because.
Yeah. And so over time, and in Feng Shui, we say it takes about 3 years for a home to start affecting you deeply. So over time, you may be thinking that your life is going downhill because the first thing you see when you open the door is the doors to the basement.
Well, I will tell you that my husband and I, our room is in the basement, and we don't think that way. Like that is a fun place for us. That's
I'm really happy to hear that, and congratulations.
so there, yeah.
However, it will get to you, and it's a physical thing. It's not just an emotional, symbolic thing. It's a physical thing because they actually have found. One of my coaches, she wrote this book about the life energies. Her name is Carol Fike.
Okay.
Carol Harris Fike, I think. And she wrote this book about the 4 energies or the 5 energies. I can't remember right now. But they actually have done studies that the position of your body leads to certain thoughts and certain emotions, right? And so if the first thing you do when you come home is tilt your chin forward, that is not conducive to the best feelings and the best emotions.
Right.
So you need to have something so that your eyes get drawn to something at eye level or a little bit higher when you first come in. You see something really beautiful. And then you look at the basement opening, that's not a problem. But the first thing you see should be uplifting.
Yeah. I'm gonna run an experiment and see how it goes.
Yes.
Because I'm really interested to see.
They're super important things to do. And when your home, your home is under control, because you have control of your home.
Right.
Sometimes we think of the words power or control as bad words, but they're good words when it's you having control of your home, when it's you being empowered in your home and by your home. Because what I want for you is that your home become your supportive partner, not like a drain that is constantly taken away from you. So some people have told me, I feel like my child is another toddler that needs something from me every 2 minutes, and it's just never ending, right? And so your home should be part of your support system. Your home should be nurturing you. Your home should be helping you.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And you're right. Everything in our life should be supportive and nurturing.
Yes.
It really should be. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Moni, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge of Feng Shui and sharing your 9 steps to a more harmonious space.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to share with you, and especially because I feel you get these things, that you understand them, that you are already in the midst of these kinds of energies and beliefs, and that you are doing that for your clients too.
Yeah, thank you very much. Make sure you guys check out the show notes. All of her contact information and links will be in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a review below, and we will chat with you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I hope today's episode was insightful and empowering. Remember, transformation is a journey, and every step towards self-care and healing brings you closer to a more fulfilling life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us to reach more listeners and spread the message of hope and resilience. For more tips, support, and inspiration, stay connected with us on social media at Design Your Existence and join our Facebook community, The Metamorphosis Project. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep shining. You are worth every bit of effort and care that you invest into yourself. Take care and be well.